She was putting in her contact lenses the other day.
Oh, no.
And there was one on top of the other, wasn't there?
Oh, this was hilarious.
Well, whoa. It is seriously boggy, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's like a skating rink, and my feet are disappearing.
And I said, I'll do it too.
Bryony was thrilled. She was like, ooh, Dad's going to do it too.
So, what was that?
The what, sorry? Yeah, that's the gatehouse to the old Whorlton Castle. Whorlton Castle.
Is this like some kind of miracle?
Oh, no.
And then I looked at what I'd taken out and I'm like, there's just one there.
There's only one.
All I can say is thank goodness for Gore-Tex.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring walking the moors. And let me tell you, this is about as epic a quest as it could possibly be, because there's castles,
There is.
there's dragons,
Ah,
there's long forgotten villages,
yeah.
and there's lots and lots and lots of sticking wood.
And a beautiful church.
Yes, an absolutely gorgeous church. And if you're wondering why I just said sticky mud
In that way.
that's because that's how our daughter Bryony used to say it.
When she was little sticky.
When she was 14, that's no, it's not.
When she was like 3 and 4.
Yes.
Sticky mood.
Sticky mud. Yes, it is truly. Now, one of the things that we were so looking forward to, and we spoke about this last time, when Kay, of course, shared with us another of her favourite colour. I started a brand new season of that show. We spoke a little bit about how we were excited about walking through the seasons. And this most definitely is the start of that walking through the seasons. Because we've had a bit of snow, haven't we?
We've had a lot of snow for us.
And ice.
You know, ice has been the real problem. It's been a pain, to be honest, because it stopped me walking for I don't know how long. It felt like forever. You know, is it not February yet?
But that's winter still.
I know it is, but January just seems to go on and on and on, and it like, just end. But yeah, loads of ice, and it was just awful. I could have I tried to go out a couple of days, didn't I? And I had to turn around and come back because honestly, I would have fallen over like a million times.
But we have been recommended something called yak tracks.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to look into that a little bit more. The funny thing is, though, in this country, it so rarely happens that, the thing is, though, I think we do need to be prepared for it. Because supposedly with these yak tracks, they're just things that you strap on over your shoes and they keep you upright.
They must have spikes or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
They keep you upright in ice and snow, and you can use them when you run. So
all right.
it's potentially something very useful. Speaking of feet and coldness, I've discovered something. I don't know why I've never discovered this before, and I don't know if this is something that you've previously enjoyed, but I had, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got more joy than I should admit to reorganising my sock drawer.
Did you?
I did.
You don't really have a sock drawer. You've got drawers, and then have you still got some like in a basket under your bed?
Not really, no.
Oh, right.
That's running socks.
Oh, right, okay.
Basically what I did was I moved. It's more than 2 or 3 weeks. It's probably 4 or 5 weeks ago.
You did a seasonal shift,
I did.
You?
It was marvellous. I've never done it before. It was like rediscovering old friends. Seeing all these gorgeous... You're like,
you do have a tendency just to wear the same 3 pairs over and over when you've got like a million.
When you're in sort of... We all wear clothes in a seasonal mode, I think, obviously, because when it's warmer, when it's cooler, you need to pick the right clothes appropriate. Although I do think, and I think we've probably said this before, it does make me laugh. Like yesterday, it was really quite warm. I mean,
well, compared to how it has been, it's been below freezing for quite a long time.
And it was 9-10 degrees.
Yeah, it was like 8-9 degrees. It felt like summer, it did feel really mild.
And when I was out running, it's funny how so many people dress to the season, not to the forecast.
Yeah, that is true.
It's winter, so I'm putting on a really warm hat and a big thick coat. the amount of people I saw when I was out running who were like, oh, that's coming off.
They probably don't check the weather daily, you know, and if it's been cold.
How have you been keeping yourself entertained in these past months when, you know, so many of us have been indoors a lot more than we previously would have been? Let me tell you, I did not anticipate two things. First of all, that I would ever use air drying clay.
Oh.
And secondly, that I would actually enjoy it.
Yeah, well, we say air drying clay. It's not actually clay. No. I bought this thing, and I'll show you what it is. I bought it on the thinking that it was some form of clay. It's not. I don't know what it is, but it was fun, and we'll show you what we made.
Yes. Basically, it was decided that our afternoon's activity would be... No, look, it wasn't decided that our afternoon's activity, you and Bryony, one weekend afternoon, we're going to do some air drying clay.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll do it too.
Bryony was thrilled.
Well, we sat down and we started making things, and I don't know who started with the ghosts.
Me, I think.
Basically, what happened was, at the beginning of January 2020, last year,
right.
It was January last year, I went to meet up with an old school friend who I'd not seen
Was that only a year ago?
Yeah, who I'd not seen for about 20 years, and he took me in to introduce me to a friend of his who ran a little shop.
In York?
Yes,
on the Shambles. Amazing.
And the shop made ghosts. And the best part of all is, whilst I was in there, I took a little video.
Oh, you did?
And here it is.
Oh.
Well,
absolutely love.
Okay, so polishing very quick, just a... And that's it.
Now, many of you might be wondering what he was doing there with his lathe. Well, he was making this.
Little ghosts.
Look at this.
Oh.
He makes ghosts.
It's ceramic, isn't it?
Yes, and he makes ghosts out of all sorts of different materials.
Yeah, there was wooden ones as well.
Yeah, and also like shiny onyx type ones.
Yeah, like
you
a
could
hard
pay a lot
stone.
of money for some.
Yeah.
They come in a gorgeous little
Well,
box.
they're not ceramic, they're stone, aren't they? Is that right?
I don't know.
Oh,
Look, he just makes ghosts.
Yeah. Out of various materials.
So he makes these gorgeous little ghosts, and it is just the most amazing shop. If you wanted to walk into a shop that wasn't trying to be from Diagon Alley, but would be like it, do you know what I mean? This isn't someone trying to be like Harry Potter. This is someone actually being just like a shop that you would walk into in the world of Harry Potter.
To fit in perfectly.
Everything about it is marvellous. My only frustration is because of the way that things have gone over the last 12 months, I've not actually been able to take the girls in there.
We've been dying to go back because he bought this one little ghost for Bryony. And I said to him, where's mine? Didn't bring me one.
Look, I'm in there and I'm thinking, are they going to think this is nuts?
No.
I was genuinely concerned they're just going to think this is completely bananas.
Ooh.
So we're there with our air drying clay and somebody decides that we should start making our own ghosts.
Yeah.
So I don't know who made the first one.
I made that one.
Kay made this one. With the googly eyes.
That one's got googly eyes, yeah.
Bryony made this one with the hat.
A little tiny one with a hat.
And a little mouth going, ooh. That one's cool. And then I remembered what the actual ghosts looked like.
Yeah, because we didn't look.
I made that one. And it was marvellous
It's
fun.
really fun. It was really fun, but this is the weirdest substance.
It is.
And it's this. I just got it from Amazon, and it's from a company called Chiara Q Modelling Clay. And it looks like this. And you can see on the top it says air dry modelling clay. It ain't clay.
The thing is, though, it doesn't say modelling clay, does it?
It does. It says modelling clay there.
There it says modelling clay.
Yeah, it does. It's spelt wrong. That's so funny. You get tons of different colours. It wasn't expensive. I can't remember, but it wasn't expensive. Tons of different colours and little plastic bags to put them in, to keep them soft. And I'll take one out and show you. It is the strangest substance. These are light as a feather. Whoops. But they're
very hard to get back in the bags.
It was okay. The substance itself, it feels so peculiar. It's kind of like, look how stretchy it is. It's sort of a cross between like bubble gum and foam sweets and clay, I suppose. It feels so weird. It's very fun to work with.
Who would have thought that you could have so much fun with such weird stuff?
And it's very fun. It's very clean. Doesn't make a mess, which is good, isn't it?
So we had loads of fun. We made loads of different things, but I think the ghosts were the things that really jumped out. And if any of you actually wants to go and visit the York Ghost Merchants shop, you can do the online shop, of course.
Yeah.
I'll post it in the show notes below, but there's a link to it as well. And it's definitely worth a little look because it's just the most marvellous little place. And, you know, fingers crossed at some point in the future they'll be able to reopen again and we'll be able to go in and buy some more.
I know, I want a little family.
The most amazing thing that's happened in the last 2 weeks is Kay's miracle of sight, because she was putting in her contact lenses the other day.
Oh, no.
And there was one on top of the other, wasn't there?
Oh, this was hilarious.
So she pops it in her eye.
No, I'll tell you what happened, right? The day before, I put my contact lenses in and one of them was really uncomfortable and I thought, it's probably time for them to be changed anyway because I have those monthly ones and I forget to change them. So I thought, right, I'll pop a new one in and I left the old one in the case, in the cleaning case thing. I forgot about it. And then I took my lenses out, later that day, put them in the case. Thought that was all fine. Went to put my lenses in the next day, put them in, and I put the lens in my right eye, and I'm like,
what's wrong?
What's wrong with me? Couldn't see a thing. It was completely blurry.
So what did you think? Did you think, it must be a dodgy contact lens?
Well, at first I thought I put them in the wrong eyes, but that wouldn't have caused that much of a problem. But then I thought to myself, do you know what? They look like a darker blue than normal because they're tinted a very pale blue. I think it's in case you drop them and things to find them in the sink, and I have done that loads of times. And then it suddenly dawned on me what I'd done.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my word, I've got 2 contact lenses in one eye. What am I going to do? So I took what I thought was both of them out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I could see perfectly.
You were like, what were you like?
And I was like,
I can see, that's what you said.
I honestly stood there in the bathroom thinking, can I just see normally? Is this like some kind of miracle?
Oh, no.
And then I looked at what I'd taken out and I'm like, there's just one there.
There's only one.
So I'd still got one in my eye. But that panicked me.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm like, am I going to be able to get it out? Because I had 2 stuck together. So I got it out and it was all fine.
Oh.
But honestly, for a few seconds, I was like, this is miraculous. I've got my vision back. I can see.
The most amazing thing is, though, actually, if I'd been in your position and I'd seen it before I put it in my eye, I'd have wondered, how am I going to separate these two? So that's amazing that you popped it in your eye and then
they
separated.
They came out separately.
You wouldn't think that would happen. Maybe that was a 1 in a million thing.
I don't know. It really
were you able to use it? The one that's left in your eye?
No, because that was the one from the day before that felt a bit dodgy. So I instantly threw that one away. I put the new one back in the case and gave it a bit of a wash. Yeah. And then it put it in. It was fine.
Marvellous.
Yeah, it was terrifying and funny all at the same time. Now I can see perfectly.
I think it's time that you showed us. Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Oh, lovely. Right.
She's throwing me off. She's trying to throw me off.
Am I?
Yes.
Why?
Because she had something off her needles in front of her.
I know, I do, because
that's what gave me pause.
I forgot to show you something last time, and it links into what I'm still knitting.
We'll let you off.
So this project is in this lovely...
Oh, my little ghost. Yes, we'll let you off.
Oh, we love those ghosts. They sit downstairs on the sideboard.
The most amazing thing I think about these things, and credit to these guys, is they have created a shape with so much character.
I know, it's brilliant.
Just 2 tiny little eyes and a very distinctive shape.
I think it just goes to show you, though, you think something is really simple and really easy to do, but actually when we came to make them in this weird modelling clay stuff, it actually wasn't as easy at all.
Getting these ripples on and the work that's...
And the smoothness.
There's real skill gone into making
absolutely
that.
There is, yeah. But anyway, the project I've got is in this lovely Christmas bag that I bought in maybe November, something like that. And oh, I just love it. Can you see the little mouse? She's got a hand-knitted jumper, it's neither of those things. She's got a hand-knitted scarf, which is so cute, and a little net tutu. And then the back's got lovely festive fabrics on too. And this came from Moo and Mouse. Absolutely gorgeous shop. I've got 2 of her bags now, I think, and they're really lovely. So in this lovely bag is the final Advent project that I'm still working on, but actually it doesn't really feel particularly Christmassy as such. So I'm quite happy just to keep carrying on with it. And it's a scarf. I think I've shown you this before, but I hadn't really got very far. It's a scarf that I'm knitting with all of the yarns that I dyed up for my BTS themed 12 days of Christmas, my own little present to myself. Advent calendar, yarn advent calendar. So I dyed up 12 different colours, all themed around the pop group, K-pop group, BTS. And I made a pair of socks, which I finished just before Christmas, but I've never shown you, so I'm going to show you those. And then I'm also knitting a scarf as well, which I'm still on with. So the socks, I did show you these, but they weren't finished. And then I finished them on about the 22nd of December, I think, and just forgot to show you, so I'm sorry about that. And Bryony's been wearing them since, so they probably do need a wash, but I think they're fine to show you. So these are the finished socks, using all 12 colours and just using the colours once. So I did quite a bit of maths to work out exactly how I could do that so that it ended at the right foot length, but I managed to do it, and I held the yarn double. So these are kind of like a DK worsted weight sock, really thick and cosy, and Bryony's worn them loads in the house. She likes them as kind of slipper socks. And I cast on 48 stitches, which is generally the stitch count that I cast on. It's the equivalent of 64 stitches if you are knitting a DK or a worsted, you know, around that sort of weight. I find that 48 stitches works really well. I can't remember the needle size. It was probably 3.25, I think. It certainly wasn't any less than that. I feel sure it was 3.25, so it's quite a tight gauge, but that works really nicely because it produces quite a dense fabric. So these were all the colours, and those were the socks. And I'm working on the scarf. And this is where I'm up to on the scarf.
What's the yarn?
It's just fingering weight yarn that I dyed.
Yeah, what's the blend?
It's various.
Right, because that's a super tight twist, isn't it? It's great. The stitch definition is just tremendous.
There's just two different bases. There's a sparkle base.
Right.
I think there's 4 of the colours are in a sparkle base, and then the rest are in that base I really like, that's an 85-15. So it's 85 like super fine merino and 15 nylon. It's really plump and gorgeous and soft. So it's sort of a mixture of the two.
I love yarns that give a good stitch definition.
Yeah, it is really nice. And I love how it's knitting up. It's really fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Bryony loves it. And I'm on to the sort of second repeat of the 12 now. The colours go from this lovely sort of pinky colour down here through to the purple here. And then it starts repeating again. So I think the last time I showed it to you, I might have been sort of in this blue. And we finished off the sort of sequence up to the purple. And the purple, the significance of... there had to be a purple in there because... Bryony's favourite band member is Tae Young, and he says this thing about, he like does a love heart, and he says, I purple you. I don't know, don't ask me to explain. Something to do with the rainbow and purple being the last colour and love lasts forever. I don't know. But that one I called Rocking Around the Christmas V. I gave them all kind of cute little BTS references. So I've kept all of my little topper things that went on top for all of the names. I think my favourite, I do really like this pale coloured one, and that one was Sugar Topped Mince Pies, and it's Sugar, S-U-G-A. That's one of the band members' sort of nickname. The green I thought actually stands out a bit much, and I thought if you take that green away, I kind of think it's a bit nicer, but it's in there now. So I'm knitting this scarf in a tube, and I cast on 68 stitches, and I'm using 4.5mm needles, and I'm just using a 16-inch circular because that fits on there nicely. To be honest, all I did when I cast on was I just wanted it to fit nicely on a 16-inch circular without it being tight or anything. So I just kept casting on until I thought it looked right. And it's given me a scarf that's about 6, maybe 7 inches wide once it's blocked, which is perfect for Bryony. She doesn't like super wide scarves. So I will just, so you can see it's a tube. It's like a sock for a huge person.
Yeah, or a leg warmer.
Or a leg warmer. For an
warmers.
elephant. That would look cute on an elephant, wouldn't it?
Leg warmers were cool.
Stripy leg warmers.
Weren't they?
I don't think I ever had leg warmers.
Oh, well, that's just wrong.
I don't think I did.
Kay should bring them back.
So yeah, there's the scarf, and I think I'll need to do 3 repeats. Because the repeat goes, here to here, and I think sort of 3 times that might be enough. I mean, it's only like that at the moment.
Yeah.
But she doesn't tie it or anything like that. She just literally loops it around her neck, so it only needs to come to sort of waist level on either side. So.
Looks very Tom Baker-esque.
It does look a bit Tom Baker-esque, doesn't it? And it's fun. It's a
When
great
you
way to
decided-
knit a scarf. I would never knit a scarf just flat.
I'd love to know.
That's just the ends.
Yeah,
I just
sorry.
Need to,
Sorry.
That's just, He's inspecting my ends where I've joined. They just need
spent too
weaving
much
in.
time
I know.
with you.
I've woven in all the other ones. I've just got 2 ends here that haven't been sorted out.
We're as
yet.
bad as each other, aren't we?
I know.
Inspecting each other. So
But
what's that hole there?
This brown is lovely. This one is Christmas. It was something like Christmas cookie jar.
It's like
Because one of the band members' nickname is Cookie.
an oatmeal-y type thing.
Yeah, it's pretty. I like that shade of brown.
Yeah.
I don't know that I wrote it down. I don't think I wrote down how I did any of these colours.
So none of these will be appearing in my favourite
I don't
colourways.
think so. I'm pretty sure I didn't write down any of them. I just thought about what I wanted that particular colour to look like and then just did it, and that was it. Because I really wanted it just to be that sort of special, one-of-a-kind type things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to carry on. I'm just doing a bit of that every night, working away, and I'll still have a little bit of the yarn left, I'm pretty sure, when I've finished the scarf, looking on how much I've got sort of left over. Yeah, I've done 2 stripes with this pink, and I've still got this much left. I reckon I might have at least 10 grams left, which will be brilliant. I think I'll probably have more. So that can go into scrappy projects, which is always nice. Dan Jones,
Yes.
what's on your needles?
Cool. It's the Fairy Wings socks.
Oh.
Where's the Fairy Wings? These have gone from being challenging, because if you recall, I mean, I don't think I've shown them in a while, and you were impressed at my progress, which is very sweet of you. But
Shall I put it on a blocker?
do as you will.
Yeah.
This has got the central double decrease in it, and I know lots of people out there don't enjoy central double decreasing, and I definitely was part of your number. I also did not enjoy central double decreasing, but what I said to Kay yesterday was, and this is absolutely right, when you get a pattern with something in it that is something you don't do very regularly and you're not particularly good at, like the central double decrease, what you want from that pattern is for the challenging bit of it to flow nicely within the pattern itself. What I mean by that is you're not having to really concentrate on getting the pattern right. You can, just read the pattern, do the job, and then when you hit the thing that's challenging you, you can put all your effort into getting that bang on. And the first couple of times I tried to central double decrease, things went cataclysmically wrong. You ended up fixing some major problem for me. Yeah, I dropped the stitches.
You dropped one of the stitches that you'd slipped, I think.
It was a disaster, and it was just a nightmare. And because I was able to just sort of relax into the pattern and just focus on nailing that central double decrease within 1 repeat. So first repeat messed it up, second repeat, by the end of that I'd done it, and now I must have done 8 or 9 or maybe more repeats, and I can now do a central double decrease and I actually enjoy doing it. Because what I've been able to do is I've been able to develop a technique which works for me. And I think I mentioned this actually last time, the first time I showed them. And that is what I do is I pull on the yarn as I'm pulling over the 2 stitches to do the central double decrease. So the yarn with the stitch that's on the needles, I'm pulling that nice and tight. and then I lift the other 2 over, because what I wasn't doing before was pulling, and as I was lifting the 2 stitches over, that was pulling the stitch off the needles. It plays into what is so great about knitting as a craft, because there's so many small victories that you have when you're knitting a project, and those small victories play absolutely wonderful, it does wonderful things to your brain, is what I'm trying to say. Because it's a victory for you, isn't it? And no one needs to know. You know, and you've learned something and you've bettered yourself. And I was so pleased that I've learned to do it. Because one of the things that I'm very sort of passionate about and keen to always do is to sort of master all the different elements, so that I've tried it, so that I can then make an informed decision as to what I like the best. And, my journey, for want of a better word, my knitting journey has led me to a point where I've now tried so many things that I know that garment knitting is the thing that I really do enjoy, but sock knitting is a vital part of me keeping my skills up, and I've come to really love and enjoy knitting socks, and I didn't. Lace, it's just so pretty. I never ever would have anticipated that I would enjoy lace knitting. I think my first experience with lace was, of course, the speargrass hat.
Yeah.
And I've done lots since then. The bits of lace on the solia I really loved, and on the body.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that was all lace.
I know.
There's loads of lace.
I know, all the way up the arms.
Yeah.
And, I never ever would have anticipated, when I first started knitting, that lace knitting would be something that I would love. And I think it's because of all the different things that are going on. I love that in a repeat. Slip one, knit one, pass slip stitch over. The day will come when that will just flow like a knit stitch, won't it? As I'm sure, there'll be loads of really experienced lace knitters out there who... I sort of look forward to the day when I don't have to think, right, okay, what am I doing again? Similarly with the central double decrease, I can do it now, but I have to concentrate when I'm doing it. And how fun is it when... It's like you've increased your engine size, your capacity. If those are flowing off my needles without me having to think, what's next? What else?
You'll be knitting like a lace weight, massive circular shawl.
Do you know what? I've never felt inspired to knit a shawl.
No, and I like shawls, but...
Yeah, I do.
I like shawls and I like knitting them. I just don't seem to wear them as much as like cowls and other knitted things.
Yeah. So, Fairy Wings, perfect yarn. It's marvellous. Look at that colour. Just gorgeous. And these were the alternate Dunbrock colourway.
Yeah, well, it's a shade dark. It's just a shade more orange than the one I used for the actual Dunbrock socks. Yeah.
And I can't decide if I should knit those Dunbrock socks.
All right.
Do you think I would like them? I think I would.
You would.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah,
good.
I do think you would.
In that case...
There's plenty there to keep you, to keep your brain occupied. Because there's a pretty twisted stitch, sort of cabled panel. It's not actually cabling, it's done by twisted stitches, but it looks like cables.
Yeah.
And then the rest is based on a rib. I don't know, I think you'd enjoy it.
I think I would enjoy it too. And, I'm definitely... Just speaking of twisted stitches, Kay's just actually filmed some twisted stitch tutorials. In fact, I think I think they're out and they're accessible now via our website. Right. Those are the tutorials which I used specifically. I've used them so many times for sort of nailing twisted stitches, and I absolutely love twisted stitches, and I love them because they look like cables without the need to cable.
They can very often.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's okay.
What else is on your needles?
Well, I've also got a pair of socks.
Cool. This is a lovely yarn.
This is a new cast on.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's lovely.
Goodness me.
I know, it's really pretty. Do you know, this was one of those things that it was another one of those incidences where some yarn arrived and I completely forgot that I'd ordered it.
Yeah.
Because I ordered it on a pre-order and it was sort of the back end of October and it came towards the end of December or even early January, I forget now. So I'd just totally forgotten, which is not good, is it, really, that you forget these things? But it was a lovely surprise when it arrived and I was like, what's this? Oh yes, I ordered that ages ago. So it's from Stripy Cat Yarns, and I used a skein of Stripy Cat Yarns for my umbrella socks, if you remember.
Yeah.
Gorgeous yarn. And this is in the, so it's Stripy Cat Yarns, and it's platform 9 3/4 is the colourway. And it's a sock set, so you get a self-striping 100-gram skein and then a 20-gram mini to go with it. But very kindly, I was given also an extra little mini. So I got this beautiful sort of, oh, it's gorgeous green, isn't it?
What's the mini that came with it?
The mini that, I'll show you the yarn. So the mini that came with it is this lovely kind of, oh, what shade of brown is that, would you say? It's a lovely shade of brown.
Will that pick up the brown that's in the stripe?
It's the same, yes.
Okay.
There's a stripe of this in the socks.
Right.
That's normally how it works with a contrast. You usually get a contrast of one of the colours. So this is the yarn. Oh, how fun is that? It's very Harry Potter. I think you look at it and it looks Harry Potter, doesn't it? I don't know what it is about it, but I think it looks very Harry Potter. And I cast on a sock, and here it is. Oh, look at that. How fun is that? And I think the reason it looks Harry Potter is because it's got the sort of colours in of the different houses, hasn't it? It's got that red of Gryffindor, green for Slytherin, brown for Ravenclaw, and then the sort of grey for, who have I missed? Hufflepuff. And then it's got that really bright pop that looks like fire, I think. And maybe that's kind of representing, maybe the grey and then that bright fiery colour represents the train, because it could be the smoke and then the fire in the, what do you call it? The fire in a steam train where they put all the coal.
Well, it's a fire.
A fire, you know what I mean. So I just started at the top, cast on at the top, working down, and because the stripes are really thin, can you see how thin they are? They vary between 2 and 3 rounds. So part of the round you get 2 rounds and part you get 3, if you know what I mean. So it's really, really thin stripes. And because of that, I thought, well, I'll do my umbrella afterthought heel, because that's just going to be the cleanest and neatest way of doing it. So I've marked for the heel, and I'm placing it in the middle of the brown, the thin brown stripe there, so that it will look kind of seamless. Because there's only 3 rounds of that brown, what I'm going to do is I will pick up top and bottom of the 3 rounds and snip the one in the middle, and then it will just look like the heel is in all of that brown, which I think will work nicely. So it's lovely to knit, really pretty. I don't think I've ever done a self-striping sock with such a thin band of colour for each, so it's been really interesting to knit, and it goes super quick because you're on to the next colour before you even know it. It's really fun. So I will use the contrast for the heel, and I think the toe as well. I think I'll do that. And it's a nice base. It's 80-20. So 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon high twist. So it's that 2-ply high twist. Really, really pretty. Kind of reminds me of one of the book covers as well.
Yeah.
It's just got that feeling of
But it would work. What I love about it is it would work. I mean, it's completely appropriate for a man or a woman.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think I could have used that green, and that would have worked really nice as well. But it's a different base. This one looks like a 75-25. So I thought, no, I'll stick with the one that goes with it. So beautiful. She always dyes beautiful yarns at Stripy Cat, so I'd really recommend you go and have a look. I've used her yarn several times.
And a lovely
now.
ticket.
A lovely ticket. And I couldn't recommend it more. It's gorgeous and really fun to knit. It feels like a nice January sock. It's just got that. It's still winter, but it's got that bit of brightness and cozy. It's got a very cozy feeling to it, I think. Yeah. So lovely.
In my quest to learn new skills, I decided it was time that I tried to do a Latvian braid. Although,
really? Is that really what you thought? You had that conscious thought? No, you didn't at all.
Basically, what happened was, as you may recall, last time I showed you some yarn that I got for Christmas.
Ah.
Kay dyed some figgy pudding for me.
Yeah.
And you also dyed this one for me too.
Pink.
Pink.
Just a tonal pink.
And so I was like, what should I knit with it? So you were going to design me something.
It's DK weight as well.
Yes. You were going to design me something.
I was.
But then
I found a pattern. I just stumbled across this pattern on Ravelry, and it's free.
It's called the Inga Hat
It's really pretty.
by Sheila MacDonald. And within this pattern, there is a Latvian braid. And
I've never done one before.
it was really fun. I mean, just really fun. And it played into all the skills that I've learnt with regards to colour work and what you do with your yarn and all those things. None of those things apply to this Latvian braid. But because I've spent a lot of time moving yarn around and positioning it right and stuff, actually the instructions for how to do a Latvian braid, it was just fine. It was great. And I was stunned at the outcome.
It's so pretty. Look how pretty that is.
I think it's just marvellous that just by positioning your yarn in certain positions and moving it.
I didn't realise how you did it. I thought it was a lot
ways.
more difficult than it actually was. It's quite time consuming, isn't it? Because you've got to cross over your yarns each time you do a stitch. But it's not difficult.
I think that's where it picks up on the whole colour work thing and the dominant thing. Because I'm used to positioning yarns, it didn't bother me at all. The only thing that's quite hard is there's not a lot of give in it.
There's not a lot of stretch, no.
So it's quite hard on the hands when you're knitting it.
And so maybe, the lesson to be learned, if there is one to learn, is just to not cross them too tightly, maybe. Yeah,
I mean, well, you have a look. I mean, I think it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a lot of give, but I think the cast-on number was quite high, really.
Yeah.
So I think because it's colour work and also because of that Latvian braid, I think it'll be fine looking at the size of it. I don't think it'll be a problem. It's so pretty, and I really love it with using, variegated and then the solid. Oh, it's so pretty, isn't it?
It makes me start to think how cool it would be to have a few of them.
Gorgeous hat
on something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you quite often see them at the top of mittens, Latvian mittens. It's very traditional because Latvian mittens are those ones where
they look amazing.
You have like a braid, don't you, at the cuff?
Yeah.
And then they're beautifully colour worked, and then they usually come to a point like that.
Yeah, like a little roof on a house.
Yeah, gorgeous.
They're so amazing. So this Inga hat is sort of it's not an accidental custom, but it's just I didn't anticipate doing this.
No, but I just found the pattern and I thought it just looked perfect for you.
There's nothing better, I think.
And there's loads of projects on Ravelry. I think there was over 1,000. So I like them when it's obviously been well knit.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any sort of problems with it.
The repeats are completely bananas, which is so cool.
It's quite a long repeat, isn't it?
You need to really zone in when you're knitting through the repeat, and it's so sort of easy to.
I love the colours. It's just going to be such a pretty hat, isn't it?
Can't wait for me to get going and get it finished.
No.
Well, I've made more progress on that than I anticipated, really, because, like I say, it was a completely accidental cast on.
We've all had those, haven't we?
Yeah, I think when you've got really good yarn that's sat right there and.
Yarn does inspire. Yarn definitely inspires me. Like when I got that sock yarn, I just thought, well, I've just got to cast that on straight away, haven't I?
So it's the Inga hat, Sheila MacDonald, lovely yarn, figgy pudding. Oh yes, and who knows? Hats normally now don't take me too long, but these.
Well, I mean, it's fine. I'll just
are...
plan on having it for this Christmas, this Christmas, because it's figgy pudding and it's pink. I mean. What can possibly be bad about that?
Absolutely nothing can be bad about that. What else is on your needles? Is it in that lovely bag over there?
It is, and I showed this last time.
Yeah, I remember. It's the gorgeous stag. I love the stag.
I know.
It's marvellous.
It's so cute. But I showed this project last time, but I've made quite a bit of progress on it. So I wanted to just show you how far I was. But yeah, it's the gorgeous bag from Emma. I was watching Emma this morning. She put out a new podcast, which is always a treat. So it's Emma at Eldenwood Craft. And I'm almost into the 4th colour now of the 5. So I've got 5 colours that I'm working into this.
Oh, just before actually, I meant to say, as we said last time, I've started using a lot of these Cubics needles, these square ones. And after having some sort of elbow issues, I now don't seem to have any elbow issues at all.
I've been having elbow issues as well. My left elbow, haven't I?
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's kind of like it's all in this sort of area, front and back, and it's kind of like it's not pain. I get this kind of sort of cold feeling.
Right.
So I think it must be a nerve or something. I don't know. And whenever I've been getting it, I just stop knitting and or change products or go and do something else. So I think it's obviously something knitting related. So I'm just being careful. Yeah. So this is my Bits and Bobs cowl that I'm working on. I'm nearly through the third one now. I've just got this little nugget left, and I do have a little bit left, and I've done it deliberately because I wanted a tiny bit of each yarn left just to put into sort of scrappy projects. So I've just got tiny little nuggets left. I mean, that first colour, because I used it for the cast on, there's even less of that. There's probably only 2 grams maybe there. But that one, I reckon there might be 3 or 4, and this one, they'll be the same. So it's nice just to have that tiny little bit left, just to put in, just to my crochet blanket, just one little row maybe, or something. I just like having a bit of leftovers. So yeah, I'm almost done, look, with the third colour. I just love how this is working up. I love that you can see the stripes, but they're kind of a bit blurry, aren't they? And I think that's because of the stitch patterning, because I'm doubling it with the undyed yarn. So I just think it looks really lovely. So I've got 2 more colours to work in. Look, it gets just progressively darker in this gorgeous red. And it's just going to be so nice. So with the Bits and Bobs cowl, it's one of my patterns, one of my designs, and you hold fingering weight double, and it uses just about 100 grams, just shy of 100 grams. You have those tiny little bits left out of the 20 grams. Or you could fully use the whole lot if you wanted to, and just be a little bit longer. I'm using a 100 gram skein of just an undyed yarn, and this is one that's got some, is that gold or silver sparkle?
Oh, well, I would say silver, but it could be gold. It's
got some kind of stellina in it, but I think it's gold, actually.
Right.
You won't, I'm sure it'll not be transferring. I've got this much left, look, of the undyed. And then I'm holding it double with a pack of 5 20 gram minis from Pixie Yarns. This was a little set that I bought in the autumn called Hey Little Apple Blossom. Absolutely gorgeous yarn. It's been lovely, and I love the shade of pink. It's sort of like pinks and greens for that appley sort of look, but it's also got a slightly sort of not peach, but I don't know. It's just such a lovely. It's like a strawberry pink, isn't it? It's really pretty.
Screams rhubarb to me.
Yeah, rhubarb. That is a good word for it. And I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it. I could have easily finished this by now, but I've just been working on such a lot of different things at the moment. So I'm just sort of taking my time, but that's fine. I've already got a Bits and Bobs cowl that I wear every day still. And I just wanted another. So it's just the perfect project for, that set of minis. You might have 10 grams, or you might have 5 20 grams, or it could just be leftovers from sock projects. All you need to do is grab yourself a skein of, 100 gram skein of something. It doesn't need to be a plain colour. It could be whatever you want. It could be dark, could be light, whatever you like really. And then get going and have yourself a beautiful squishy cowl. I can't wait to wear it. I think it's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
One question that I always get asked on the Bits and Bobs blanket and the cowl. There's a blanket behind me actually. This is the Bits and Bobs blanket and the cowl as well. Is it brioche? I must answer this question I don't know how many times a week, but the answer is no. It is not brioche, and it isn't knit even remotely like brioche, because the reason I designed the blanket and the cowl is because I love the look of brioche, but I don't like knitting brioche at all. I have done it, I have tried it, and it just wasn't my thing. I just found it really just a bit fussy, and I just had to think too much, I had to concentrate too much. And I think, you know, had I knit it long, I knit it long enough to know that it wasn't my thing.
Well, I tried it too. And
you tried it too.
I also didn't like it.
You weren't keen on it, were you? No. But you can actually get the same effect using a different stitch. And I kind of modified that stitch to make the Bits and Bobs blanket. Because with the blanket, there are no purl stitches whatsoever. So if you don't like purling, don't worry, there is not a single purl stitch in the blanket. The cowl there is, because this is knit in the round. However, I really love working the rounds where you've got the purls, because it's not the same. Because you're doing something else, you're not just purling, you're doing something else. It doesn't feel like purl round, you know, a normal purl round to me. I like working the purl round just as much as the knit round on this. It's just so lovely. And I'll never stop knitting these, I don't think. Great gifts as well.
And it's interesting that you have shown this today, because since we launched our website in 2018, was it 19? Oh, I can't remember. But since we launched our website, we've slowly but surely been putting all of our tutorials that we've done over the years on there. There's well over 200. I mean, there's a lot more than 200 actually. But one of the ones that had been missed and that just recently went on was right before you designed this. You did a fisherman's rib sort of deep dive, and this was right at the point where you were just starting to design the bits and bobs. And I think it was your sort of delving into fisherman's rib and the whole history with your mum and your dad and all of that. And she did a video all about this, which just actually went live just a couple of weeks ago, even though we filmed it, you know, a few years ago. Within that, though, you spoke, and I know there'll be people who will comment, so it'll be worth us saying now, what are the chances in the future, because you did think back then that you were going to do a hat? A hat.
Yeah, I think there's high chances that I will do a hat at some point.
So at some point
this year,
in some way,
I think I will do a Bits and Bobs hat. It'll just round off the little collection of bits and bobbing.
Right, look, the time has come. Yes, we did have a little sally forth out into the moors on our Christmas special, but now it's time finally to start a brand new season of walking the moors. Now, it's going to be a really exciting year of walk, because we're also going to be delving in again to the Dales and going to some of my favourite places and sharing lovely stories. But today we do start in the moors, and let me give you a little tip. I suggest before we set off on our trip, you perhaps put on your waterproofs.
Welcome everyone to a brand new season of walks. Over the next few months we'll be undertaking 5 hikes in the Yorkshire Dales and 5 hikes in the North York Moors.
We're going to be walking through a landscape I've spent the last 35 years exploring, and I can't wait to share with you some of my favourite destinations and the stories that surround them.
From mysterious castles to beautiful forests and long-forgotten villages, in this series we're going to undertake some wonderful adventures. But where are we heading today? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new season of walks. Now, we're starting right here in the North York Moors National Park. And this is actually Whorlton Moor. It's a place that has captivated me for years, but would you believe I've never actually walked here? About 25 years ago, I used to drive past this spot on my way to work quite regularly. And the ancient ruins that lie all over this landscape drew me here like a bee to honey. So one weekend in the late 1990s, I decided to come up here to take a look. And this was before the time of sat-navs and OS maps that direct you to exactly where you want to go. So after a few wrong turns, eventually I got here, and my goodness, was it worth the wait. Just take a look at this. Now, the world is of course full of places with rich and wonderful history, but we tend to, don't we, in the modern world, we protect it and we package it, and there's car parks and gift shops. And I think that's what makes places like this so special, because when you come here to Whorlton Moor, none of those things have happened. To my right, a huge castle once stood. Way down there at the bottom of Whorlton Moor, a village once bustled. It was huge, you know, it was surrounded by a big wall. The church that used to service that village is still actually there at the foot of Whorlton Moor. And whilst the people who lived here and gave this place its soul have long gone, actually it's like they only just left yesterday, because as I speak about a lot, and as you may have heard me say before if you've watched other programs that we've done, places tend to hold on to their spirit, and the families that lived and worked all around here have given this place, Whorlton, its spirit, and I think it makes it really quite a special place. So I'm really excited to walk for the very first time in this gorgeous spot. So how about we go for an explore and see what we can find? I think we're all set. So let's go walk in the moors. It really is a shame that after 1,000 years of constant habitation that this beautiful place was abandoned, but it's no surprise really, because there's no running water here, and there is in nearby Swainby. But one thing does remain: the church, and it's one of the most gorgeous churches I think I've ever visited before. Should we take a look? The new church was actually only built because this one was in such poor repair. It was cheaper to start again than to try and renovate this gorgeous old building. And whilst it's really sad that they didn't, what they've left behind is just hauntingly beautiful. There was actually a Saxon church built on this site before this one, but unfortunately nothing of that one remains. And what remains of the original from this church? Well, it's these gorgeous arches that were built in around 1090. They once would have held up the nave, which is now all gone. What a wonderful little pit stop in the most romantic of places. And as we leave the Church of the Holy Cross behind us, we're going to actually now be breaking new ground, because this is the furthest that I've ever explored before here, people. So let's go see what we can find. Now, it's time we addressed an issue. What is a moor and what is a dale? Now, I know this is something a lot of you have been pondering on, and people in the UK will most probably know. Whoa! Let's see if I can stay upright as I do my best drunk walk. Well, a moor is the land that normally appears in sort of upland areas, so on the top of hills and on the top of mountain ranges. It's normally got lots of heather on it, and probably not a lot of trees, because there's probably quite a bit of wind blowing up there. So that's a moor. And a dale is the valley created by a flowing river. So why are we walking the moors today? Well, it's because we're walking in the North York Moors National Park, and it's called that because the North York Moors National Park has got the largest collection of heather moorland in the whole of the UK. And hopefully, certainly in this series, but hopefully today as we climb higher up, if I can stay upright, you might get to see some of that heather moorland. Now, one of the things we're really looking forward to in this series is walking through the seasons. And winter presents some very unique challenges. Very wet, boggy conditions. And my Merrills that I walked through the Dales with last year in the first series of the show would not be dealing with this very well at all. I'm sure I'd have fallen over a number of times. So I've actually bought some new walking shoes. Oh, this is tricky. He's made it. I bought some new walking shoes that so far are doing tremendously well. I've broken them in a little bit on a few walks closer to home, but today's their first proper test. They're Gore-Tex, they're Adidas Terex Swift. They're actually walking boots and they've got continental grips on the soles, and let me tell you, I'm extremely grateful for that today. I'm sure I'd have been down 2 or 3 times already, but look at that. Before me lies the next landmark on today's trail. Welcome everyone to Hall Hill. Now, I have a feeling that this is going to be a little bit of a climb. I've already got a little bit lost. But imagine, I mean, it's actually a little bit easier underfoot now than it was when we were out on those boggy tracks, because there's sort of bits of a road underfoot. The one thing I wouldn't want to do though is drag a cannon up here. And in the 17th century, that's exactly what happened. Oliver Cromwell was leading a civil war against the English King Charles. And Whorlton Castle, which we're on our way to on today's walk, was loyal to the king. So Oliver Cromwell and his men decided that if they could get the higher ground, they could fire down on top of the castle and make them surrender. So they dragged their cannons all the way up Hall Hill. They started firing and they were too high. You imagine how annoyed you must have been. Right lads, pull them back down again. So they found a nearby hill called Toft Hill, sort of a few miles over in that direction. How am I going to get past this? My goodness, it's just lots of leaves, and because there was so much snow just a few days ago, and there still is a little bit around. But so yeah, Oliver Cromwell's men, they went up Toft Hill, and that was the perfect height. Now, I bet you they had horses. I do not have a horse. Part of me wishes I did. What I love about tall tales like that is the villagers of Whorlton, where we started our walk today, would have known that tale well. They probably told it to their children to keep them entertained and to stop them straying too far from the safety of their village. And if you're wondering what a worm dragon is, I'll tell you. It's basically a dragon, but if you take off its arms and legs and wings, so it's just got a head. It's like a flying snake. It sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Hey, my goodness, I hope the legend isn't true. What was that? I think we'd better carry on our walk. If I can negotiate this fence. Well, after all that climbing and all that wading through the mud and the stickiness on the way up to Wall Hill, now it's a fairly sort of lovely track leading us up to Live Moor. I've got to say I'm quite grateful actually for this. It's feeling much more pleasant on the knees and my shoes aren't being taken to the limits of their capabilities. I've got to say though, so far I've not sprung a leak. With Hall Hill behind us, we're now making our way up towards Faceby Tree Plantation, which I'm told is covered with prehistoric earthworks. But before we get there, I'm really going to need a little breather. So while I do that, you guys head off and have a little rest, and I'll see you later in the show for more Walking the Moors.
It's officially official. I love the North York Moors.
Oh, it's lovely.
They're like a pair of lovely shoes. They just feel right. They feel comfortable. Anytime I go there, honestly, anytime I go there, because it's only, first time I've been back there to do a proper walk was the Christmas special that you saw. And this is just the second time that I've been back. And, you know, I did sort of wonder, was it just that one-off thing? And, you know, when I go back next time, it'll just feel like, well, no. They have a very special atmosphere.
Yeah, and we've been to that castle, to I always want to say Whorlton, it's Whorlton, isn't it? Whorlton. Yes. We've been there a couple of times and walked down to the church, and it's just so beautiful. That church is amazing, and it's just one of those churches. All churches have an atmosphere, don't they? But that one in particular, it just feels so old and, you know, with the gnarly trees and gravestones sticking out at odd angles and things like that. It's like a film set.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is a very, very special place. And what about that worm dragon? To think we've got a whole part 2 to come when we climb to the highest point of our walk, and also we go in search of the world's tallest man.
Oh, that was fascinating.
I know. How amazing was that? I was as stunned as you were. And it's not me, by the way.
No, and I couldn't believe that reference. I mean, wait, I won't spoil it for you.
Wait till you see that coming up later on in the show. Because now it's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I do have a few things off my needles.
Because I had 2 last time, didn't I?
You did.
Amazing.
So I've got 2. I mean, one of them I'd almost shown you before, but so let's say 3. Let's be generous and say 3. And the first thing I made just yesterday, actually, just in a couple of hours in the afternoon. I just suddenly wanted to make Bryony a little present, and it's a little heart. Oops, I have to try and stop it spinning. Oh no, there we go. It's really sweet. It's a lovely shaped heart, I think.
A nice yarn too.
Yeah, well, I held some fingering weight yarn double. The very bright purple you can see is Cascade Heritage in Dahlia.
Right.
And then I held it double with some figgy pudding. Which it looks completely different.
Who's figgy
I had no idea it had
Did you steal some of mine?
No, I've got a skein of fingering
okay.
weight. Yours is
Sorry.
DK weight.
Sorry.
This is fingering weight. And I just crocheted a little,
That's cool.
a little hanging thing.
Have you crocheted a hanging thing before when you've made these hearts? I don't think you have.
I don't know. Maybe I've plaited before, or I don't know.
I don't recall ever seeing.
It's a great way, actually, of making a little hanging thing. Do you know if you're doing Christmas decorations or whatever? It's super quick and it's really pretty, I think. And I hid the sort of joining bit. I'd used a tapestry needle to pull the end through and then tied it, and then I hid it inside there so that you can't see it at all. This came from a pattern that I've had for some years called Gnome is Where the Heart Is by lovely Susan Claudino. Gorgeous Susan. And I've actually knit the gnome portion of that pattern several times. This is one of them. It's adorable. Oh, hello. I added the pom-pom. The pom-pom wasn't part of it, but this one's like a little sort of...
That's an epic pom-pom.
Frozen-inspired little gnome.
Why does that pom-pom look so fluffy?
Because it's mohair.
Okay.
It's just a little mohair pom-pom. And she hangs up just on the door handle there. There's 2 more of them, actually. It's just so cute. So the pattern, you get the pattern for the gnome, and then you get the sort of heart as a bonus pattern. And I've knit this before several times. It's a great shaped heart. Literally took me a couple of hours, start to finish. Great little gift. And it'd be nice, to tie on to a gift for someone maybe, or a little Valentine's gift. You could pop some lavender in there if you wanted to, but I just stuffed it with polyfill, the teddy bear stuffing. So that's the first thing that I finished. And then I've got 2 pairs of socks, which is very exciting. The first pair is my Christmas socks with the little trees. And I finished them. So you can see I've made them not matching, but associated, if you know what I mean. I've just changed where I've put that cream, and I really like it. I think it's really sweet. That red looks fantastic on screen today. That is very true to colour. What I'm seeing on the screen there is exactly what I'm seeing with my own eyes.
Yes, not Kay's special eyes.
No, not my special eyes.
She's not got her double contacts in today. Everything's so big.
Just single contacts. No, it wasn't. Everything was just completely blurry. And So yeah, these are all finished. I knit these top down, and I used my Umbrella Afterthought heel. So I used the cream there, and I just did the red there. And I've never done this heel and just used the same colour. I think it just looks so neat.
Yeah.
Look how neat that looks.
That's cool.
And you've got the cute little trees at the top there. So the red I dyed, and the cream is the same base, but this is from Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's Whispering Grass. And I just think the cream and the red, it kind of looks very like Santa's hat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So to be honest, I'm just going to keep these now till Christmas.
Good idea.
I know that seems ridiculous in January, but I'm just going to tuck them away, and I'll bring them out and give them to Bryony at Christmas, and she'll be like, oh,
perfect.
Lovely socks, and I'm already done.
Ahead of the game.
Well ahead of the game, yeah. And I actually put this little pattern for the tree into our last issue of Knitability. So our patrons can do the same thing if they want to, and I like it in the red as well. It's really sweet. So that's the first finished pair of socks, all beautiful. And the second pair, now I spoke about these on the last episode. Can you hold me that so I don't climb? On the last episode, and these are the socks that will be published on Valentine's Day. And these are called the Amore sampler socks. Amore being the Italian for love. So I'll pop them on the blockers and then show you. I have sort of shown these before, but they weren't quite finished. But they're all totally finished now. And you can see both socks are different, but they're similar at the same time. They're kind of similar stitch patterns, but different. So you're never going to get second sock syndrome. Oh no, not with these. And you've got 5 different lace stitch patterns on each sock. So effectively what you've got, you can obviously knit the pair as I've knit them, but then you can use any of those stitch patterns and pop it into a vanilla sock and effectively you've got 10 different, pairs of socks that you could make there just from the one pattern, which I think is lovely. Some of my favourites. This is the one that I'm knitting in that yellow sock. Do you know I've shown you before? I love that. I also love the sort of equivalent on the other sock. This one is gorgeous. And then I love this wavy pattern here. That's really pretty, and I'd love to have that on a whole sock as well. I think that would look gorgeous. So I used Cascade Heritage for these, and the brownie sort of colour is Camel. And the pink is my favourite pink from Cascade, and it's Strawberry Cream. It's such a pretty pink.
That's a chocolate in a milk tray, isn't it?
Strawberry Cream.
What's the one that looks like a strawberry?
Yeah, I think it is Strawberry Cream.
I really like that. When I was young, I never did like that, but now I love it.
I like that one. Well,
oh, yeah.
It must be 5 years since I've eaten chocolate.
Chocolates don't agree with Kate.
No, it triggers my IBS, chocolate.
It's like bread with me.
Yeah, I mean, so many things actually trigger my IBS, but chocolate is terrible. So I love chocolate, but I just can't eat it anymore. So I've probably not had it for about 5 years. I keep thinking, well, maybe I'd be all right with it now. Shall I try a bit? But I'm too worried to try it, thinking it's just not going to be worth it, is it, if it is still a problem? So I just don't eat it. But I can smell it, and whenever you have chocolates, I'm like, oh, let me sniff it. It smells lovely.
My mum bought me the Hotel Chocolat festive wreath box for Christmas, and I had it last year, and they're great. I mean, they're just
they
great.
are lovely chocolates.
They're like on a different level. It's just so lovely. But they changed a lot of it from last year, and I understand why they changed it, because obviously you want to change it because you don't want people to think, oh, well, I had it last year, so what's the point in getting it this year? We'll change a few, so then it's having something new. And just some of the things they changed. I don't know what this obsession is with really sort of dark, bitter tasting chocolate. I like high cocoa content a lot, but I don't like the really harsh.
Yeah, really bitter.
It's just a bit much.
It's even smelt bitter when I smelt something.
Yeah.
And there was quite a lot with alcohol in as well.
Yeah.
And
champagne truffles. I need a lie down after one of those.
I never used to like, even when I ate chocolate, I couldn't stand chocolate with alcohol in.
What were those ones that when you bit into them, it was when I was a kid.
Like a little bottle?
Yeah.
You can still get those.
And I don't know what it was on the inside. There was like a crust on the inside.
Was there?
It was like a sugar crust that was holding the alcohol in. I remember
you used to bite the top off and pour it in.
Or pour it into a glass.
Oh, no.
Get loads of them and pour it into a glass.
Oh, there wouldn't be enough to do that.
When you're like 11 and you think you're being clever.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't stand those though. You had one that was like cherry brandy or something.
The problem with the alcohol chocolates is you have one and you can't have another because all you can taste.
It just kills your taste buds.
Yeah.
It's just, you just get that whack of alcohol and it's just not pleasant. It's like, I don't like sherry in trifles either. I don't like alcohol in puddings at all. So like tiramisu and sherry trifle, not my thing at all.
I don't know if I'd like trifle anymore.
Oh, I love trifle. I'd love trifle now.
Well,
I just don't put alcohol in it.
I'm just thinking back to, as a kid, I remember adoring it. And, I remember so much having it. We used to have it at Christmas at school. It was the only time we'd have it. And, it was just marvellous. Every bit of it was marvellous. But I just think now, that my taste buds have changed. I'm not certain.
My taste buds have definitely changed.
I like the idea of it. I just don't think it would.
Yeah, I haven't got a sweeter tooth as I used to have at all. Not by any means. And quite often I'll have a pudding and I'll be like, it's too sweet. And I would have eaten it no problem previously. So it is funny how your taste buds change as you get older. Your mum said that actually.
Yeah, they look lovely.
Yes, so the Amore sampler socks will be published on the 14th of February. It's just one size only. It's a 64 stitch sock. And that's just because there's so many stitch patterns in there. I mean, firstly, you would have needed a pattern that was, as it stands at the moment, it's a lengthy pattern, because you've got 10 charts in there and each sock is different, so each sock is written separately. But it would have been sort of 3 times longer if I'd added other sizes, and it just would have been really, really difficult to actually make it into 3 sizes. So I've just gone with the one size 64 stitch, which in my experience is a size that a lot of knitters actually do knit. And if you do want something slightly bigger, you can always use maybe a sport weight yarn, or you can go up a needle size or down a needle size if you want it slightly smaller. So that'll be published on the 14th of February, but starting on the 1st of February in our Patron Facebook group, I'm going to be publishing a section of this design each day for 12 days. So it's like a little advent, or shall we say Valenvent. Someone posted in our Facebook group again, and they posted a picture of this woman holding some vol au vents. And I'd not thought that it sounds just like vol au vents. Oh, and I loved vol au vents back in the day.
They were never for me.
Oh, a lovely prawn vol au vent or mushroom.
It was always
delicious.
Like creamy, weird, horrible stuff in it.
Oh,
I didn't like
I
it.
couldn't eat them now. The pastry would be too much for me. But in my head, I'm eating that vol au vent. Or it could have been a Valenvent. You never know.
Late 70s, early 80s party food.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant. Ooh, yummy. So, yeah. 1st of February, if you're in the Facebook group, you will get a little section of this pattern each day for 12 days. So 6 days for one sock, 6 days for the other sock. So by the 12th of February, if you're knitting along, you can have this pair finished ahead of the release, you know, so you will actually have the pattern ahead of the release. You won't actually get the completed full pattern within that, you know, the Facebook group. You're just going to get a section each day to download and then knit along if you want to do that. So yeah, that's the lovely Amore socks.
Lovely. I think it's time that we got back out for our lovely walk in the moors, because I'm desperate to get up to the high points on this walk, because there's just some marvellous sights to see and also some wonderful history and stories to discover. So less talk and more action as we head back to the wonderful Whorlton Moor. Welcome back everybody to Walk in the Moors. It's cold and it's very windy, but we're having a great time. Now, over to my left and behind me there is Live Moor. It's absolutely full of walks and history. There's prehistoric cairns up there and barrows and all sorts. Unfortunately, in today's weather, with the snow that we've had, it would be just virtually impossible. So our walk's going to take us off this way. But I'll send Kevin up and you can have a little bit of a closer look.
We're really climbing actually now. We've been climbing gradually the majority of the walk. It's quite good really because it is a gradual climb. So it keeps you warm and it constantly means the views keep changing. I've got to say though, it is particularly changeable and treacherous underfoot. And the more I walk in these shoes, the more I'm impressed with them. So there's been people living up here for generations, thousands of years in fact. And what I find just so tantalising is seeing trackways, which we know from previous walks that we did in last series, the ones that have been indented in the earth just through thousands, millions of people potentially, probably not millions, thousands of people walking over thousands of years. And we've got two here that are leading straight up to what we know was an Iron Age hill fort. So looking at these, I know that people have been walking up these for an awfully long time. Just take a look at this. We're at the highest point now, and it really was worth the walk because whilst the North York Moors stretches out behind me in that direction, in front of me and in the distance lies the place we spent last season exploring, because about 20 miles in that direction is the Yorkshire Dales. Got my sheep friends down there. I think they might be Swaledales, but I can't quite tell. They've been keeping me company though. A little shed there's got a sign that says firewood for sale. I only wish we had a fire. As we branch off the forest trail, we're making our way into the tiny hamlet of Huthwaite Green, and this is Skugdale. Now this is a place with a little secret, except it's not a little secret, it's a big secret, because Ooh, crumbs. In the, I think it was about 1820, 1830, a man here was born called Harry Cooper. And Harry was 8'6" tall. Now, at the time, it was thought that he was the tallest man in the world. And there was only one man who could offer you a living at that time, and his name was P.T. Barnum. So that's where Harry went. He left this tiny little place, went off and joined P.T. Barnum's circus, and he toured the world. He died in 1900. He's buried in Calgary in Canada, but his story started right here in Huthwaite Green in Skugdale in the North York Moors. You would not expect, would you, such a tiny place, there must be 10 houses, to have spawned such a famous son. Now, one of my favourite things to do is to look for evidence of human habitation in the landscape. Things from history. And it doesn't have to be ancient history to get the old grey cells working. Because somewhere along here is the doorway to an old well. Try as I might, I've not been able to find any references at all, really, to Harpley's Well. It's marked on the Ordnance Survey map, and there's the door with a mysterious sign over the top of it. So the questions really are boundless, aren't they? Who was Harpley? Were they important? Is that why their well is marked on the map? I think, though, what's probably more likely is that, as we found out, there wasn't a lot of running water in this area if you go back 200, 300, 400 years. And I'd be willing to bet that Harpley's Well was the place where all the houses that are sort of directly around it, up and down Skugdale, used to come every morning to pull off some water so they'd have some fresh water for the day. Of course, we'll never really know. What a tantalising echo from times past. The old railway line was never actually a passenger line, which I think is absolutely tragic. But back then, this wasn't a place that you came to for a walk. In fact, it probably wasn't particularly pretty because it would have been full of mining and industry, like so many of the places where we now go and enjoy lovely country walks. My goodness, it's changed a little bit, hasn't it? And so we started our walk today at the abandoned village of Whorlton. And we're now making our way down Skugdale into the village where everybody moved to, Swainby. This is a place I've driven through crumbs so many times, and for me it feels like the quintessential Yorkshire village. Two lovely pubs and what feels like just a gorgeous, thriving village community. Let's go see what we can see. So as we leave Swainby behind us, we are at last approaching the landmark which first brought me here 25 years ago, and it's actually the reason why the villages were built here in the first place. In 1066, William of Normandy arrived in England to claim the throne, and he installed his most trusted men in key points across the country to really stamp his control and to install himself as King of England. Now, to do that, William and his men of Normandy built something which would go on to dominate the landscape of Great Britain for hundreds of years to come, because William loved to build castles. Whorlton has such a special atmosphere, and really it was quite an important place back in the day. In 1561, Lady Margaret Douglas, the Countess of Lennox, lived right here, and it was from this place that she wrote a letter to Mary, Queen of Scots, proposing marriage between Mary and her son, Lord Darnley. Now that is a story all to its own, and it would need a whole show, probably a whole series to delve into the amazing story of Mary Queen of Scots. But it just goes to show you how at one time this, what is such a quiet and tranquil place now, really was quite important. And I can think of no better place to finish our walk today. And what a walk it's been. Folks, this has been a walk I've been destined to do for years, and my goodness, it didn't disappoint. From the dragons at Wall Hill to P.T. Barnum's circus and the world's tallest man at Scugdale to this wonderful castle at Whorlton. I think it's fair to say this has been the most interesting walk we've done to date, and we've only just started a brand new series. So folks, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time when we will once again be walking the Dales.
Well, what a walk. That one, let me tell you.
So muddy.
Let me tell you, that walk is up there for epicness with Arkengarthdale from season 1 of Walking the Dales. We had flyaways with poor Kevin. Do you remember I told you when we were up in Arkengarthdale and we were walking the Dales, Kevin, he got caught by the wind off, he went, the same thing happened, except this time it was really weird. He was happily hovering, but when I tried to bring him down, he just kept going higher. And I think you know now, you know, for those of you who've watched all of these shows, that I have quite a bond with little Kevin.
He loves Kevin.
And I was getting, but I was really happy. I was keeping myself really calm and right. I know what to do. He's got 3 speed modes, so I changed him onto sport, so he's moving nice and fast. He can move at 20 miles per hour when he's in sport. And then brought him down, and slowly but surely he did manage to get back down again. Thank goodness. Oh, but also, as Kay said, I'm so glad, and I can heartily recommend the Adidas Terex Swift boots. They were phenomenal. Not one drop of water got into my shoes.
They were a different colour from when you left.
They were.
They were
no
black
longer
when you left.
I'm actually quite pleased.
They were mud coloured.
I don't know what your opinion is of new trainers, but I always think you look a bit of a fool when you're walking out.
Yeah, if they're bright colours, I always feel a bit daft. You want to sort of knock back that colour, don't you? Well,
They needs to be worn in a bit, yeah. They're definitely worn in. They look like I've done about 50 walks in them. But what? I mean, just Harry Cooper, P.T. Barnum.
P.T. Barnum. Fancy that. Greatest Showman.
I know. I mean, that's just
amazing.
Fancy being 8'6".
I mean, that's just unbelievable, isn't it? How tall. I mean, people.
Where did he get his trousers from?
Well, they would have had to have been made, wouldn't they? Yeah. But the poor fella, because that must have been dreadful, really.
Oh, yeah.
That tall.
Yeah. And coming from such a small place.
I know. Amazing.
Now, Kay will be back next time with the second episode of My Favourite Colourways, and Walking the Dales will return the episode after that. So episode 168 is Kay back with My Favourite Colourways. 169, we're back out walking the Dales.
Yeah.
And remember, none of this is possible without our Bakery Bear patrons. So if you would like to find out how you can become a Bakery Bear patron and keep us on air making shows like you've just watched and like you're going to watch next time or the time after that, then follow the link below that's also in the show notes, and you can find out all about becoming part of the Bakery Bear community.
Yes.
But now it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Now, I've been gobsmacked at the response for the Amazonian Warrior Challenge.
Yes.
I've lost count of how many teams there are. There's Team Sloth.
Team Sloth.
Team Anteater.
Yes.
Team Toucan. Team Tapir.
Oh, I love tapirs. They're my favourite.
Team River Dolphin.
Yeah.
The list goes on. And these teams, the teams are for the walkers and the runners. Spoke a little bit about this last time, but I'll just remind you here again now that the way that you take part in this activity, if you would like to, is you set yourself up with a Runkeeper account, and that is free. It's just a free Runkeeper account. Once you've done that, you send me an email using the contact details in the show notes below, and you tell me, if you're a walker or a runner, how many miles you walked last year, and what was the third thing they needed to tell me? I can't remember now.
I don't know why you're asking me.
And I remember, the third thing you need to tell me is the email address that you've used to set up your Runkeeper account. That's so I can find you and invite you into a team. Once you've done that, you get invited into a team. And then our job is to walk or run the length of the Amazon by the end of the year. So that's about 4,200 or 300 miles, approximately that. And it's a race this time because there's teams. Now, what I've done with the teams is there's been some questions as to how I've set the teams up. Well, so long as everyone out there is being honest about the amount of miles that they walked last year, the teams have been set up so that if everyone hits their last year target, then each team will hit the mileage.
That's very fairly done.
Yes. And whilst I do appear in all the teams, but I think because I have to, so I can see what's going on in the team, I think what I should do
is split your mileage.
No, what I should do is I should be a member of each team for each of the months.
Oh, right, okay.
That sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So 1 month...
And then you all get a bit of you.
Yes. That sounds fun, doesn't it? So what I'll do is, within the groups on Runkeeper, there's a chatter area, so I'll make sure I tell everyone. But also, as well, I'll tell people in our P.O.P show, our famous live patron-only show, the next one of those is happening. It's the 31st of January.
Yeah, very end of January.
At 2 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We'll post a link on our Patreon page at 1:30, just like normal, and then you can join us from 2, and we'll give you a full update on everything that's gone on that month.
And I'll be doing the final prizes as well for the Race to the Moon.
Yes.
So we'll be announcing that and finishing off that one officially.
Yes.
And then getting into... Well, we're already into it, and we've already got tons of finished items in the knitting thread as well. Amazing. So we're off to a great start.
So the run and the walk is open to anybody.
Yeah.
The knitting element to it is open to Bakery Bear patrons. Cool. Kay has just added to her archive of over 200 tutorials. With 2, we've had hundreds and hundreds of requests for.
Oh.
If you want to find out how Kay picks up drop stitches, clearly everyone's dropping stitches out there because they were desperate for this tutorial.
We've all done that.
Also, as well, Kay's done an up-to-date How She Tinks Back in 2021 video.
Oh, right.
Which I suspect was the same as how she would have tinked back in 1821.
Probably. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
So those videos have just gone live. They're also listed in the show notes below. The Self-Contained Knitter is back next week.
Oh.
I've not seen you since New Year's Eve.
Wow. Do you know, I said to Dan the other day, Christmas feels like it was 3 months ago. Doesn't it? It does to me.
It's that change in year. As soon as you click over to a new year, then I think it's like it's a huge barrier to your memories, I think, because you think it's a new year now.
So, yeah, you're probably right.
But 31st of December was the last time I saw you. It's back next week. You get an update on my Radari. Been making lots of progress, but also we'll dive into the experiences I've been having with the old Latvian braid a bit further, and also as well on the other lovely colourwork project I've got on the go, which I can't even remember the name of it at the moment. But tune into the Self-Contained Knitter and you'll find out all about that. It's the one you designed.
I was going to say it hasn't got a name.
That's why I can't remember the name of it. I'm not a complete idiot. The Bakery Bears radio show. Did you hear last week's show? People seem to love it. We spoke about I don't know why I said it like that. That sounded all wrong. People seem to love it.
Why was that wrong?
Well, it just sounds funny because normally they hate it.
I hope not.
So last week, we spoke about our favourite books that we had read in 2020. Yes. And we also spoke a little bit about the books we hadn't enjoyed in 2022. Next time, it comes out next week, we're talking about the benefits of being bored and how it can actually aid creativity. this is something that we've really sort of got our head into a little bit this year. You've gone on a bit of a mission and you've created a load of space in your week, and we're going to talk all about...
I'll tell you exactly how I've done that and why I've done that.
And also as well, Kay, I can't remember where I think it's in this book that you're reading, but the book was talking about how important it is for creativity to have boredom.
Yes.
Because the boredom then spawns that, right, okay, what am I going to do to fill that space?
Yeah.
And that's when, some of the best things get created.
I'm reading a really excellent book. It's called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport.
So we'll talk all about that in next week's Baker Bears Radio Show. That's available on Thursday for Baker Bear patrons and then available to the world on Friday. And I think that's it. So
I've got just one... Just remembered, we've still got a knit-along ongoing, the Winter Socks knit-along. It ends on the 31st of January, so I will close the thread on the 1st of February, and then we'll draw for prizes on the podcast after that. It'll be the next show, I think, will it? I'm not sure, but anyway... The first show after the end of January, I'll draw all the prizes for that. So if you've still got socks, you've still got socks on the go that you think you'll be able to finish by the end of this month, get finishing them and pop them in that thread on Ravelry.
Cool. Folks, thank you so much for watching. It's been wonderful to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take good care of yourself.
Yes.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for a whole lot more.
See you soon.
Bye.
Enthusiasm's not quitting for Jen and Kate, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your oven, or maybe a show